So welcome this afternoon. Thank you for, well, morning for some people and late night for others. We are joining a few continents today here together. So thank you very much for coming up here today. So first of all, to talk about Assembly of Life, which is a platform that's live shows for startups, founders, community builders, and as well for investors. And it aims to empower the power of community. And today we have here with us amazing women for the Women in Computing Global Forum. And we are going to go through a few questions. First of all, my name is Estela, and I'm the founder of Dital, and I also am a community builder. I'm based at the moment in Portugal, but I run communities both here in Portugal and online, part of a startup grind and Lean in Portugal. And I will let our panelists today to introduce themselves. So ladies, please.
Thank you, Stella. I can go first. My name is Mazama Zahid. I am a lead engineer in Microsoft here in Seattle, Washington. I am also president of a nonprofit organization called Pakistani Women in Computing. And this is a global organization. It has around 10 different city chapters around the world. And we are on a mission to learn, connect, and grow together. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you, Mahatma, and welcome.
I can go second. So my name is Sarah. I'm from Cairo. I'm a software engineer and a Scrum Master at Megalix. I've actually just joined a month ago, so it's still fresh. We offer Kubernetes cluster optimizations and recommendations, and we're trying to make it easier for people to maintain their cloud native apps. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Oh, sorry, I'll go next. I'm from San Francisco originally. I'm on secondment here in Lisbon, Portugal with Stella. Good morning and good afternoon to everybody. I came back to work about 18 months ago through a returnship program in San Francisco. And I'm happy to be at Cloudflare now and doing compliance work and information security. So it's an exciting time. I took 4 years off to raise my kids, so I'm glad to be back to work.
Thank you.
Okay, it's my turn finally. It's a Beijing time, midnight here, so I'll still keep to energize here. Hi everyone, my name is Maggie. I'm the co-founder and COO of She Talks, which is also a women empowerment platform here in China. I actually been supporting and involved in the women community for almost 7 years. And this actually become my passion and mission. So thank you, Stella, for having me here to talk about this topic today. I'm actually also the only woman tonight not into the tech industry, but I have been involved and supporting women in tech communities as well. So I'm very excited to hear more insights from you ladies who are really rocking in the tech industry. So thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, actually, this is the way we are starting today, and it's about the pioneers of computing. And this is an unknown part for a lot of people. And actually, I did a post in LinkedIn saying that this gap that we face nowadays in technology was artificially created. So I had a few people asking me, what do you mean with artificially created? And I told them, join us today, because I would love also to hear your perspectives on this gap. So from what I've been reading about the history, and usually we don't get to learn these things unless we do a lot of research. We had Ada Lovelace was the first computer programmer. We have a lot of women, but the better well known are like Admiral Grace Hopper and a few other ladies. And from my understanding, in the 60s, even Cosmopolitan did an article saying that this was a woman's job, or they call it the computer girls. However, what has happened? Would you like to share your views on this?
Yeah, I can share my views on that, starting on that question. So thank you for asking that. I think it depends on the culture and over time their evolution as well. Coming from Pakistan, grown up as from Pakistan, computer science is not a field for women. It's not considered a area to go to. If you're a woman, they're like we are basically told to be a doctor. If you're a man, then you go to engineering field. Those are the two main areas if you want to get a high-paying job. That we are taught to actually be there. And then culturally also, there were things like you have to be nice, you have to be obedient, you have to follow the rules, and all of those cultural things that come with that, right? Talking specifically about computer science and computing in general, right? I have seen the evolution. Like when I was graduating back in 2006, there were like 5 women in my class or 6 women in my class out of the batch of 50, for example. And those numbers have significantly changed now. We are, if not 50-50, we are almost like 30 or 40% of the class range, right? I think what has changed over time for Pakistani women is the mentorship, is the things, the industry to be there, and knowing that you can get a job once you graduate, and a stable job. So knowing that is a factor. And then from economics perspective as well, understanding of how your household supports you in those fields is important. So in the areas or countries where I see that the women have the right support system around them, they're able to excel. And they're able to choose the field. It's not just computing, it's about a choice, right? And I do feel like women versus men, that's a debate in itself, that a lot of women don't have a choice. So with over time, providing the mentorship, providing the right support system around you, having communities like this, Pakistani Women in Computing, like She Talks, and all of your awesome communities that are doing the work is changing the game in that sense.
For the question, why, when you were saying why do we have fewer women, not today, but maybe in the 80s, 90s, there was a bit of a decline. I was reading a very interesting article today. They were saying that they were trying to do a research to figure out what happened during this period, and while they didn't find a very concrete evidence or correlation, they noticed that the decline of women in computer science started to appear when PCs were marketed, like the personal ones that are sold in households were marketed to boys as boys' toys. So accordingly, even parents, they would buy PCs for their boys, but not for the girls, even if they're very smart. And this transitioned into, in colleges, professors would expect fresh students to already know certain stuff because PCs are common in all households. So the woman in the article, who was actually a PhD holder in computer science, she enrolled in the university, and when she asked the question in the first class, the doctor was like, "You should know this by now," because he expects everyone to know it, which wasn't the case maybe 10 or 20 years ago. Eventually, she dropped out because she couldn't catch up with her male peers. But then she enrolled again and did her master's and so on. So this was very interesting to read, that something as simple as the way you market a product affected the whole profession.
Should
My
I
dogs
go
agree
now?
with you. I'm gonna put myself on mute.
Yes, thank you for sharing. I actually have a few stories, which, you know, the other day I was sharing this to Stella about the tech communities here in China. I think often through my experience by building women communities, I often found this is not about industry or the progress. It's more about people's mindset. Even from the teachers, from the education point, a lot of teachers in the school are not often are very limited in their mind and thinking that technology is only for men, not women. I think, you know, to change this whole industry, we have to change the mindset, people's mindset, where, you know, often people are having bias towards women, not just in tech industry. And when I met with a lot of partners, they often tell me the same thing, that, when you're talking about technology, they're always about inviting male speakers on the stage and never want to hear about women's opinion, especially in tech industry. Also, one of my best friends are the community leader of a tech community in China, and they often face the same challenge. So, you know, by hearing what you just saying, Sarah, I think it's really important for us to push people's mindset first, and then see how we're making progress. For example, the other day I was talking with the partner who are actually doing the STEM education in China, and which is something I heard is quite popular in the Western countries nowadays. But in China, I think a lot of parents want their kids to study STEM education courses. And what they're doing now is to really push the kindergarten teachers to learn about technology, to learn about these tech courses, and to train them and to be able to have tools or a methodology to teach their kids. Because in China now, there are not many tech teachers, especially women, in this field. So I think they're making a progress. And from my part, you know, what I do usually in the community is to really try our best to find the best representative, a woman representative in technology, and to really tell their stories and voicing out their ability and the potential to let more people know about what they do. So this is our mission. That's why we call She Talks. I think that women's voices really matters now. I often share that we're living in the best age now, since, you know, the technology and the information are developing so fast, and women get more opportunity, more exposure, more voices. You know, when we see about the Me Too movement, that's the best example. Women's voices are being heard. Thanks to the technology and thanks to the information age we're living in, that our mothers and our grandmothers has never lived, never enjoyed this opportunity. So, you know, I think for us, sitting here talking about these new opportunities, even in a rare industry as tech, I feel we're quite lucky. We're quite privileged to talk about these issues now, and yeah, this is just my little experience.
I'll add my 2 cents in here real quick. My experience as a woman in tech began quite young. I came from a privileged background, and I was able to attend a middle school that focused on STEM fields, like you said, math, science, computers. Magnet schools. So I began programming in the mid 80s. So it's not as new of a thing to me that women were in tech, just because our classrooms were half and half typically. I also come from a line of machinists and mechanics and math teachers, and so this is somewhat normal or predictable in my case, but I understand that I still had to deal with some bias in my career when I first exited college, and when I was studying math in college as well. I was one of 2 or 3 women typically in my upper level math classes. So I just kind of didn't think about it very much, but it definitely has this subtext of effect on your life. You have to remember to keep your chin up and just to keep going and have faith in your abilities as a woman.
Yeah, I think, yeah, thank you all for your contribution. But yeah, I totally agree with what you are saying. It's just that we have that stereotype of how a programmer should look like. And that's my question, and that's my comment on the artificially created, is that stereotype was created after. So the initial computer, the initial people working with computers when the computers were started were women. So it was created artificially, like the image, and all the recruitment tests were done to fit that same stereotype of a man, and that has been filtering through society. So I'm super happy that we are here together to change stereotypes and show that there are no like woman jobs or men jobs, but that we all have. We should all have access to the same opportunities and studies and the same fields. So and then we segue into the question, that something that I would like to know from you is that I've seen a lot of companies, like for example Goldman Sachs came out a few months ago during the Davos conference, saying that they will not take public any company that doesn't have at least one woman in leadership. So then has been a case that having more women leaders is a competitive advantage for companies. How are you experiencing that in your companies, or what are your views on this point?
I definitely think that it's a competitive advantage because diversity leads to creativity, and if you just have one point of view or one gender dominating, you're definitely not gonna explore all the possible areas in your company. For me personally, I was fortunate so far in my career that every place I've worked allowed for women to be leaders. They might have not been doing it intentionally to be diverse, but it was always encouraged that if you have initiative and if you have good ideas, there's room to grow and to be a leader. So that was my experience so far.
Yeah, I would just add, it's not just about men and women. I think it's the intersectionality as well. So you bring a lot of that other things to the table as you have more diverse voices. So your race, your religion, your background, your different things that you did, your choices to the table. And as part of like your question to understand, like in the US per se, I do see a lot of companies have invested in this intentionally, and then in some cases it has happened organically as well. So it's a combination of both the things, and I think this is, as Maddie was saying, it's the right time to be talking about these things, to make sure every company makes an effort if it's not done already. And then I see a lot of startups per se, as some of our audience is startup based, doing intentionally to build the culture right from the beginning. For the future as well. So I think as a leader, it should be something on top of your list to think about, to bring the diverse leaders to the table, and think about the intersectionality when you're choosing those leaders as well, in that sense, to bring as much diverse experiences and things to your company.
I think from my background, by serving women communities for 7 years, what I see now is the internet has really helped women to reaching out more leadership roles. For example, now if you see the Alibaba Group, and Jack Ma has been so openly and actively promote women's leadership roles in the company. And because Taobao, for example, half of even the business partners and the customers are women, and consumers are women. So what Jack Ma has been saying is that more leaders are in the group and the company. And then because this is the service industry, what we see in China is also that more women has leadership roles in service industries because they're more compassion. They're better at listening to other people's opinion, and these soft skills actually play a very key role in the whole company, and which they have more patience. And these are I think the traits are actually now being seen as more important as before. So I think the internet really, I think, gives the women new opportunities for them to be stand out. That's my point of view. And then now, what I also see that a lot of international companies, like Fortune 500 Fortune companies, are promoting the women's leadership roles. I think this, especially from the C executive level, what they see or their goal is to promote this as a strategic goal in the company. It's no longer about, okay, it's probably better for women, but it's actually a strategic goal for the whole company, and to be more favored in women, to help women in the leadership roles. A lot of international companies are well aware of that, but also it's a challenge. What I see now in China, still some of the private companies haven't realized this yet, which for us, it's a new opportunity to make a progress, to push the CEOs to make a better decision, to promote the women leaders in their companies. So this is making the progress.
I obviously agree with this. The COO of where I work at Cloudflare is a woman, and we went through an IPO in September just before Davos, and it was. I think like you said, it's a very important key aspect of having a well-rounded company, to have it be as representative of the population it serves as possible. And women definitely offer, in maybe in more abundance, their aspects of empathy and understanding and collaboration and consensus that might be missing in a more mono culture. So it is very important, and it just makes good business sense. It's been proven that it makes just better business sense to have women involved at every level of the organization, and to promote them from within, to train them and give them the same opportunities, and where they may be lacking in skills, to assist them to get to that next level, and to be fair and equitable about promotions and the accessibility of resources within a company to support, mentor, or even sponsor their employees internally. And that goes a long way to helping the world understand in general that it's typically not just a skills issue. It could be an easily solved, let's train this person these skills so that they can make the most use of their talents and bring those new skills to the table as well. So yes, it's goes with, in my opinion, it goes without saying, but I know I'm coming from a place of probably more privilege than most. So, but I can't, I'm all for it. Obviously, I was out of the workforce for long enough to know that the bias is real and the struggle is real.
Yeah, is anyone wanna make a note on this? On the no? Then, yeah, I just wanted to point as well to what Moazma was saying about the intersectionality, which is something that women used to suffer more than men, and in case anyone, I will just make a clarification on the term. That is when not only you are discriminated by one reason, like your gender, but there are other reasons that can also add on to the intersectionality, like for example, your religion, or if you have a disability, or what is your age, race, color, or sexual orientation, between others. So there are many different aspects that compile on the biases and that women tend to suffer. So it's really interesting to listen to all your points, and yeah, data has been showing since the 90s. We have been seeing data saying that having women in companies, in leadership, in technical roles is adding to profitability, is adding to innovation and creativity, as Sarah was saying, is bringing higher returns on equity, and we are seeing these companies pushing for it. But there is also data saying that, for example, millennials, which soon will be 75% of the global workforce, say that they will leave, a lot of them, like 75% of people will leave a company that doesn't focus on diversity and inclusion. So the business case is every day more and more clear, and it's not a CSR thing that it used to be a few years ago. It's a business case. So I think more conversations need to happen, but I'm really happy to see a lot of companies taking action, especially the ones at the forefront and that believe in innovation, and that's what keeps them being at the forefront. They realize that they need to tap into this talent pool, right? Because they are leaving 50% of the population behind otherwise, and this is ridiculous. So what would you say, and based also on your experiences, that tech companies specifically, need to do in order to become more diverse and more inclusive? And I see you had an interesting story in this. If you want to go ahead.
Yeah, I have some pretty big opinions on women in the workforce and what happens to them when they hit a certain age, or they hit a certain glass ceiling where their career may not have progressed beyond a certain point, and so they seem less desirable as a hire. I think women in tech have always existed. As you said, we were the originals in the computing fields, and I think it ends up being a retention issue, not a pipeline issue. There are plenty of us who may not have graduated with a computer science degree. I don't even think that existed as an option when I was at university. But there are plenty of us who left the workforce once we started having children for obvious reasons. And I think if companies can learn to reach back out to that community, that labor pool, and have more representative ages throughout any organization at any level, and for the bias to just kind of fall away, because we bring experience, we bring a PhD in motherhood, which is quite useful when you're doing business and you're trying to collaborate and incentivize people to help you get to your goals business wise. So it's very interesting to me that it always seems to be focused on the issue existing from the start, that women aren't being hired into these fields when we are, and I was, but staying there became the trick because of my biological imperative. But that shouldn't hinder anybody being able to come back and do the same or even more complex technical work than we did before. We have still so very much to offer. Our childbearing years are only a few short ones of our entire lives, and we need to represent. So remember this when you're home. If you ever think, gee, my kids are at school now, maybe I could do something else. Yes, the answer is yes. Yes, you can. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you set your mind to and stick to it.
I totally agree with every word that you said, Abby. I think the diversity, the hiring piece is a less of a hurdle. I don't think there is an issue in any pipeline, as you were saying. It's the inclusion piece that's missing, and then the inclusion and then the retention, of course. And I see that every day in that sense. Like if you go to a meeting when you're the only woman in the room, right? It's hard to basically share your opinions or voice up, or you're maybe in the lead position and there is another woman who's a fresh hire, right? So having the right, as I said, I think in the opening question as well, the mentors, sponsors, and allies, the combination of all three of them is really important. And as part of Pakistani Women in Computing, and I'm also a lead for Nita B Org, which has the Grace Hopper celebration every year. Last year there was 25,000 plus attendees, and this was tweeted like there is no problem in the pipeline because there's so many women who want to get into tech, right? I see this very common that diversity hiring is happening, but then keeping them and retention is the challenge. And then everybody is responsible in the org to actually make that happen, from top down to every level. The bro culture is very common, right? That's if you've been in a dev team ever, you know what I'm talking about. So I think all of that, every meeting that you go into, every place that you represent, you need to make sure that you're inclusive. You look around the room and make everybody, give them the voice if they are shy, right? Just ask a simple thing. What is your opinion on that? That one single sentence can change the way people behave around you. So all of that needs to happen, and I see more and more happening in a lot of the organizations and the work that I do as a nonprofit as well. But there is a lot more effort needed for everybody to know about their unconscious and conscious bias and then work on it.
Yes, I completely agree. I think being consciously aware of the situation, even especially from the CEOs, that they're aware of this situation and they are willing to kind of building a long-term goal to promote women in tech industry to really, I think, accelerate their talents in this industry. Because I met a few tech women, you know, they really from 0 to 1, they start to learn Python, and then 1 year after, you saw them start already building like modules and applications for other projects. It's amazing to see that. Even when I remember a few years ago, my best friend started tech. It's called TechieCat community, and then I was inspired to join the community and start learn Python. I would have never thought that I could actually learn, but it's just the constantly building this kind of events, community events, to give women a lot of confidence. And I think that's really important. Like Mazama just said, it really needs all kinds of efforts, not just companies, but communities, society, media. Even media reports are really important because they can be really play a key role to tell the right information. And it's not just one party; it's multiple parties are putting this in effort, and be aware and be conscious about it.
Yeah, nice. It's really interesting everything you are sharing. Sarah, would you like to add something?
I don't have much to add. I think all of the three ladies covered it perfectly. I think it's everyone's responsibility, starting from the company down to us as women in tech or even non-tech. We should encourage other women. We should set an example. I was reading a statistic that one of the reasons also women were not in tech is that it was not recommended as a career to them by like career advisors to students or something like that. So we need to spread the word and set an example.
Yeah, and yeah, I just took a few notes here. But I really love everything what you were saying. I think Abby, what you were saying about reaching out to women that they have prior skills and helping them reskilling with the returnship programs is an amazing initiative. We already talked about this, and it's something that I would love to see happening more and more because the benefits are really obvious, and I think it has a lot of potential. Also, Muazma, what you were saying about being the only one in the room, and you were also talking about mentorship, sponsorship, and unconscious biases. Like those are things that I've been doing a lot personally with my role in Lean, and it's when you like, and I did this last year during the Web Summit, and I asked a room of 200 women, how many of you have been feeling to be the only one in the room? And you can imagine how many hands went up. And then when they look at each other and everything, like I could see the change when everyone looked at each other and they were like, wow, it's not me only. That suddenly the energy of the room changed, right? Because they realize of the importance, again, of talking about this and getting together with women and seeing you are not the only one and what you are feeling is normal, but you have to reach out and you have to talk about these things because that's what is going to help you feeling empowered. I experienced myself also being the only one in the room, and yeah, and also data shows that women that are the only one tend to experience microaggressions so much more and being just talked over, interrupted, and not listened to just because they are a minority. As well, it happens in recruiting. Some studies say that if you have 10% of the applicants just being women, most probably they are not going to get hired just because they are a minority. So it's really important that companies are aware of unconscious biases and they realize that unconscious biases are playing such an important role both in education and in recruiting, and they start changing. And I actually been interviewing tech companies just to understand what are their problems and how to help them. And it was very interesting because the last interview I had, they were telling me that they are starting to invest in schools. They are sending their tech team to schools to talk to girls and tell them, look, we are women developers, we are engineers, we do computer science. And the faces of the girls just changed. So even tech companies, and it was an Slovenian company, they're investing in kids just to change that mindset because they know they will need to hire in 20 years and they want these girls to be the future. So I think looking short term they need to look a bit more long term, which haven't been the case, I think. But I hope with all these companies start looking more long term as well, not only with short solutions, like and looking into engaging the woman, like amazing women like you to stay with them. And with this, I will move to the next question, which is that we talk about how tech companies can help, but how women can help other women. And what have been your experience, if you had some experience with other women or with communities? I think Muazma, you had a lot of experience on community, and you were talking about mentor, sponsors, and allies. But
yeah, I think there's. Go ahead.
Please, you go ahead.
Yeah, I think the empower woman, right? So first, it starts at every level, and then being a woman in tech, you should already think that you have the privilege to make sure that others who don't have the same privilege to provide to them. And then women from non-traditional backgrounds, right, who do not have the STEM education, as you were talking about earlier, providing those opportunities early on, right, at every level. So as part of Pakistani Women in Computing, as I said, we have 10 different chapters and we have like 5 programs. So one of the program is returnship, one is mentorship, one is youth program, and then we have academia and student program that we want to reach out to each and every university and representatives in those universities, and early on for high school students and middle school students also, to just provide them the role models, to share your stories with them, to give them an example that they can choose to be this person or this career if they want to, right? And then I think when at the start of the session, Mary said something about the mindset, right? So providing the support system around it, that's really, really important. So not just having a conversation from women talking to another woman, but bringing men into the conversation, bringing the allies into the conversation so that they understand why this is needed, why they have to provide those avenues for their girls or their spouses or their daughters or whatever relationship, right? This is really important, especially in Pakistan, because although women there are 50% of the population, but most of the decisions are being made by men, right? So you have to make sure that they are part of the conversation. So we are doing all of those right efforts, and just to summarize that, as that women can help other women at every step of the way. They can be their mentor. I tell this to everyone, even fresh graduates, you can be a mentor to somebody who's a high school student or even at the same level, because you might have a different background and you can share something that can help them. So be a mentor, be an ally, be a sponsor. All of those things are really important. And then amplify others' voices is really important. So if you hear something, say something. And make sure that you pass the message on.
I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say one thing really quick. That, it's really also important to recognize that your own voice is more powerful than you might realize. We all have our own power, and you don't have to be a manager or upper level manager or anyone in leadership in order to help empower other women. You can mentor anyone at almost any level. And sometimes all it takes is just getting involved with your community in your region, or regarding the topic that you studied or that you work in, and just show up, be there. Somebody else will see you and they will feel better just knowing that you're there. It's the little things, just like those microaggressions can really cut us down over time. They really add up. So do the micro positives, if you will, of being there, being present, asking questions, and offering assistance. And that's where all of us are at. That's something that anybody can do. You don't have to have, a big office and a big title and a big paycheck to help your fellow women. And really promote one another and think about how grateful you are for being a woman, celebrate your own femininity, however that presents itself in your life, and celebrate your friends. And remember to just go out to lunch and coffee with your girlfriends sometimes. It's hard sometimes. I just moved here a little while ago, so it's difficult, plus COVID. But it's something that you really do have to remember to do, is foster those relationships and be there for your friends. But that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you for sharing. This actually resonates with me a lot. Since I built She Talks, what we do, the priority is that we organize a lot of events only, designed for this ordinary woman who has extraordinary stories that have never been told before. So we offer them up a stage. You can consider as a TEDx or TED, but it's a female version. So we try our best to give them a stage every month to set up a topic, and every ordinary woman can be on the stage and talk about their personal story. And you know what, I often amazed by the stories. And actually when they got the applause from the audience, they were so different, and the confidence that boosting them, and they are inspired, and they have eager to share more. I think this will often give them a confidence that, oh, they actually the voices are matters. You know, they're not useless. They have opinion, that the opinion actually matters to other people's life. So what I see this is really it's about the mindset, and we trying our best to give women just more exposures, more opportunities for them to speak out and to be stand out, to share the opinions, to share their personal experience. And you know, often the audience, they actually get a lot of inspirations from these women. So I think this is important. I also wanted to add one point about having men involved in the conversation as well, because now in China, yes, in the past 5 years, we see a lot of women are getting independent, and they're very kicking ass in the workplace. But at the same time, what we see, a lot of women are going into the another extreme, which they're playing too powerful, you know, which will become a bossy role in the family, which gives men a lot of pressure, and often they will creating a lot of conflicts in the conversation, because they used to not get used to hear a woman's opinion, but now what they're not comfortable is, wow, like my partners or my girlfriend is starting to argue with me, which making me not comfortable. I think this is not the ultimate goal for anyone, right? And I think everyone is seeking for happiness, seeking for the opinion to be heard. But it's also important to have men share the opinions, to educate them, to be more friendly, to be more comfortable hear women's stories, women's opinions. And that's important because it's creating mutual happiness for both parties, not just for a single woman or a single man. So we try also are being consciously have male in the conversation, so that they learn about women's new opinions, they learn about women's goals, so they get to be more understandable, instead of like judging women. Oh, you are not being at home earlier and you're just being too bossy. I think often, you know, when they get to know more about what women are changing now, it will create more compassion from male side, and to be more understandable, and be a better partner, I guess.
Yeah. Sarah, would you like to?
I think all of you raised very important points. I agree with Maggie a lot, especially in the last part, that I think it's also a collaboration between men and women. It's not like a fight, or we're not trying to replace men. We're trying to extend the workplace and to give opportunities to everyone. And the point that Abby raised resonates with me a lot, that a small change can have eventually a huge impact. For me, for example, I don't have really a platform or opportunity to be part of any organization that helps tech women. So my contribution is usually at work, pushing management for hiring women, mentoring new colleagues. So I never thought of it as like change, but hearing you saying it, it made me feel a bit better about myself, that maybe I am pushing for change, or eventually it will build up.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that,
you are definitely helping. Keep it up.
yeah. But Sarah, as well, like, happy to help you set up a community, by the way. You know, that's what I do, and super happy to help you create something either under Lean or under any other whatever. I use usually Lean because that's what kicked me out of my, like when I read the book, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And I felt like so many of the situations I was going through as a young manager, and that's what I started with the community. So and I agree with everything you were saying, that women helping women is really important. So for me, my personal community effort, I've been focusing a lot on creating a sisterhood. And 2019 for me, it has been all about sisterhood. Most of my, actually, also the workshops I ran at the Web Summit were about building a sisterhood, and that was the message for me. Now I feel like 2020 is a different one, and I started personally to move towards attracting more men into the conversation. And I want to share this with you because it has worked so good. The moment I started saying, and I changed my language, and I say, men are welcome, please join us, let's have a talk. And I removed the sisterhood from it. And I started talking about other things. Men started to show up at events, and it was so beautiful. And I realized how biased I was, thinking that men were not interested and they were not going to show up. So I just focused on my sisterhood thing, when I just had to change my language. And that shows me how they are on the same place. That you know, like, because of that experience personally, I realized what is happening to a lot of men sometimes, that they don't realize. They don't realize the language they are using is oriented to men. A lot of companies, they don't realize the job posts they do are calling men because they're written for men, and they have, when they write that job, they have a man in their head. So of course, they don't get women applicants on those positions, because when you read it, you're like, this is not for me. But the moment you make the effort and you change your attitude, and I can talk about my experience on the events, men start showing up. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so happy I took the step, and I invited, and I changed it, because I learned so much by that. And the men that show up at the events were so insightful, and they were really interested on learning more about unconscious biases. And I think it's really good that we are that force, all of us, and to bring men to the conversation, not make them feel like we are not accusing you, we are not blaming, we are not looking for pointing the fingers at anyone. We just need to talk about this. And gender stereotypes not only affect women, but they also affect men, that we have an image that the man needs to be tough, and the man needs to earn more money than the woman, and he's the one taking care of everything. And then when they feel bad and one day they want to cry, they don't allow themselves, because their stereotype is like a tough guy. So is hindering also men, not only women, those stereotypes. And that's for me the way to involve them in the conversation, to show them that they can also be vulnerable, and the stereotypes are also affecting them to have those Superman standards. Maggie, do you want to add something?
Yes, about the men's involvement, because this is exactly what I see as a progress. A few years ago when we organize events, there's not rarely a man show up, but now almost half. It's a big progress. Almost half the audience are male, especially they're from the 90s, post-90s generations, which are just turned 30, and they're very, very young, and since they're all born in the internet age. So they are seeking information very quickly. And also because now in the past 5 years in China, there's a lot of women communities, women empowerment communities are going up. So men are also exposed to these messages, exposed to these events more often than ever before. So I think their mindset has been changed over the years. When I talk to the younger male generations, that they are very openly about helping women, about supporting women as their life goal as well, because this is benefiting them. It's really about helping men also to be more conscious about it. For example, the other day, it's a funny story that I have a male friend who is an international lawyer, who's a very talented lawyer, criminal lawyer. So he was actually goes through, there's a Harvey Weinstein case the other day, which was exposed, I think last month, was quite popular since he officially got jail time, and it's confirmed information. So what shocked him, according to him, that he was shocked by this case because obviously the Me Too movement has played a very big role in this whole case, because there's just too many women's voices are targeting Harvey Weinstein about this criminal record and or sexual harassment experience. By this large amount of women all came out and all talking about their own experience of sexual harassment by Harvey, which helped the judge to make the decision, which this case has never happened before, only by women's voices, instead of giving the hard proof to be convicted this man. So he was shocked, like, wow, he never thought that a women's organization can play this important role in the history, that this will never happen before. So he started to pay more attention in women's group, because before, when I share my opinion, share my experience about women's events, he would not get interested. But by having look at this case, he started to pay more attention, and he started asking me, okay, I wanted to be involved in your communities. I want to hear these women's stories, and if they have ever facing the lawsuits, and I'm more than happy to help them. So he started to get involved in the women community. I think this is one example that as long as they're getting tons of information, I think this will help them to make a change from the mindset. So telling more women stories, organizing more women events is important, not just for women but for men. I think they're learning, they're getting information, that they're learning, they're making a progress. I think that's good for all of us.
Yeah, thank you for that. And we are now on the time, so I'm gonna wrap up, and I'm gonna thank first of all Assembly of Life for putting together this event and giving us the space and getting us together today. So thank you very much. And to every single one of you that are here today, Sarah, Muasma, Maggie, and Avi, the speakers, that for sharing open heart your stories, your experiences. We are gonna share this recording, and I think it has been amazing. I have enjoyed a lot listening from you, and I have so many more ideas of things that we can do, and the numbers. I think the power we have, no, like Maggie was just closing up with, like we have a lot of power, and we are now realizing how much power we have. And the moment we start realizing, the world also will realize. And I think this is the time of change for everyone. We are now being forced to stay at home and change. And I think a lot of more changes are coming, and very positive ones, in my opinion. And I would love to keep talking about this forever because this topic is very close to my heart, but I'm gonna close up here today. Anyone wants to, does anyone have a question before we close up? On the chat, I haven't seen anything. Otherwise, yeah, please.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, because since today we're talking about technology and see what happens. The technology brought us to one place that we're all from the different places, right? Sharing about different opinions. I think this is quite amazing. Compared to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, this will never happen. Where women from different places get together, can share the opinion online, especially when the COVID-19 are happening now, locked us all down at home. But technology brought us together and to share the stories, resonated with our stories. I think that, thanks to technology, I think, this is a really amazing for all of us.
Yeah, I agree. So let's use technology for good, and let's use technology for helping each other, and for getting women together, and for empowering them to reach out to other women and create more communities, and get the power in the numbers, and on the stories, right? To share the stories, I think is really important. I think, we have one question. Okay, so Mev, is it directed to anyone? I see, I'm gonna read the question. I'm sorry, we are a bit over time, but let's, from your point of view, where do you see the biggest problems? Why more organization have problems with diversity and inclusion, and what could be the solution? Is it recruitment, job description, leadership, problem of education, and perhaps we need more training for corporations? I don't know if anyone wants to take the question.
I'll just
take a shot at it. Sorry, Mosca, go ahead.
Go ahead, Abby.
I'm just going to say that I think it's all of those things.
Yes.
I think it's all of those things and more. And right. So the numbers speak for themselves, right? We've seen all the numbers about recruitment and the job descriptions being fraught with bias. So I think, and the examples of leadership, the problems of education, now it's become a lot more inclusive for women to study topics in the STEM field. But also, I think that's a really, really smart question at the end about the more training for the corporations, for all the things that we could do on our own, that we might have access to, that we might be able to self-train. The opportunities do need to be there. And the environment needs to be inclusive and welcoming. We can do everything that we can to get there, but if we're not supported while we're there to stay in that field, or stay at that job, or stay at that company, then we're missing something. So it's a continuous thing. So in IT, we like to say that, it's not a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's just a constant loop. We constantly have to be reiterating. You constantly have to be reevaluating and improving. And don't just drop the ball over one thing because, we redid all of our job descriptions and that's it now. But we need to keep revisiting these topics and just support one another and speak up. Speak up when it's required of us, and even when it might not be convenient.
Mohammed, do you want to add something to what Abby was saying?
I was just gonna say it's all of the above and more. So exactly the same words.
Yes, and regarding the last point, more training for corporations. Actually, I was reading on this because that's one of the things that I do as part of my labor with Dital, and the training alone doesn't work. You need accountability. So studies show that if you don't have accountability, you don't have some people in the organization keeping accountability, just telling people, giving them training, it doesn't work. You need that sort of accountability in every other part to get all together. And then there is another question. Rita, do you think that with the economic crisis that we are going to face, women in technology and women in leadership roles are in danger of losing their jobs?
Yes. Yeah, I just want to say that I think in terms of, like, you can see right now with COVID-19, it's disproportionate, right? Even when, like, I feel like I have 6 jobs right now. So homeschooling, kids at home, so cooking, cleaning, everybody's hungry 24/7. So it's like a lot more work as compared to our male counterparts, right? So if you talk about the economy and the job market right now, I had another panel last week where we had this discussion with startups where microfinancing is there and all of those things. The impact is what I'm seeing in early numbers is going to be more on women as compared to men. And in terms of losing jobs, I do not know if there's any statistics out there about it, but I do see the pipeline itself getting freezed, right? That impacts a lot of the students who are going to get their internships this summer or later. They will not get it. So we will know more in like later part of the year, but I do see that it would have more impact on women versus men. And it's not just the jobs. I do see the mental health, your wellness, all of that thing that comes with it, right? Because usually growing up also, and most of you might relate to that, like your mother or like somebody in your home, like a woman figure, is making sure everybody is okay around you, right? So that takes a toll itself, right? So understanding that is important. So I hope that by the end of this, we come as more together than before, and we learn something good out of it. And we need to do our part to make sure that wherever we can, that this doesn't disrupt what we have already set in line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. From what I was reading, that it was shared with us through Lean data in the US, is that more women than men are using jobs, but it's more unskilled labor. Not so I don't know the numbers in regards to tech, but I know it's also affecting more women in color are losing the percentages of women of color losing their jobs compared with white male are crazy. So let's see, like Muasma, it's still too early to know. We are saying that the toll is there for women, and hopefully is gonna be equal. At least, I mean, it's already a horrible situation that so many people is losing their jobs. But if there is a discrimination on that, it's gonna make it even worse. So everything we can do is to push companies to be more aware of their bias, not only on recruiting, but also when letting people go. I think it's something we didn't think of, at least I didn't think of this before. And now it's getting very clear that also bias are taking part on the other side of the working cycle. But yeah, so it's time to close, and I would love to do a second round, maybe in a few months once this clears up, and get together and keep the conversation. Thank you very much again, everyone, and thank you very much for Shahjahan from Assembly of Life. And take care of yourselves, stay safe, and please reach out to your communities and keep hugging virtually each other.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for organizing this, Stella.
Thank you so much, Stella. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.